Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I am here with a layout process video for you, and I have a list of layouts I've been trying to get through. So today I want to focus on how I go from photos to layout in about 30 minutes. I want to share the reasons behind why I make the choices that I make as I go through this process. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing I do when I need to work through layouts quickly is to grab a collection of supplies. In this case, I'm using a cat theme, but it could easily be a collection of supplies by a specific designer. I will quickly flip through all of these products to find things that I like. So I'm looking at this sheet of cut aparts and I really like that one and I want to use that for my title, which will save me time. I don't have to worry about alphabet stickers for my title. And then I've got a block of photos, so leaving it as a block is going to be the fastest trick here. I did cut them all apart off of that block and now I'm going to piece them back together. Yes, it would be faster if I left them, but this gives me a little bit more room for a design element and for pops of color. So I decide on a sequence of colors so that they contrast with each other, and I move right on to looking through the rest of my supplies. I find a cut apart that will work great for journaling, and as I shuffle through the rest of the papers, I'm really trying not to pause too long on any one thing, although I do want a little bit more color to this layout, so I am peeking at all of these to see if there's anything extra I could add. And I love that paw print, so I think I'm going to use that one, but I did set one more aside just to think. Within my collection of supplies, I also have embellishments. So as I'm going through these, there's a lot of stuff in here that won't work, but I do find a couple of really fun pieces that I've had set aside for quite a while. And sometimes you save these things wondering if you'll ever use them. But for cases like this, when I'm just looking for quick fixes, they come in very handy. So I've got those set aside in a tray, and they are kind of a mix of embellishments. They don't all have the same vibe to them, but they have the same theme to them. So I'm thinking with all of the color and pattern going on in this layout, it's going to help everything feel cohesive. All right, with my block of photos, here's a little quirk of a design element that I want to add, and that is offsetting one photo from the rest of them. And that is going to play into my journaling a little bit more. And at this point, this is about my middle kid getting their first cat. And they sent me some pictures of their cat, and I'm scrapbooking about that. And the cat was very shy and nervous and hid under the bed. So that's part of the story, and I want to let that photo have a little separation as evidence of that part of the story. As I'm chatting about that, I am layering up my photos. I am trying to use up scratch pieces of paper to do this. This is not the fastest bit of quick scrapbooking, so I would have just ditched that and pulled out another sheet if I couldn't get it to fit, but it fit quickly enough and I'm ready to move on. I want to go ahead and add more layers to this. For me, scrapbooking quickly means going back to things that are tried and true, and so adding lots of layers with frames of color around. And here I did take the time to try out some green, but I realized I just need to stick with the colors that I've already got going on. So orange and blue and a little bit of yellow is what I've got happening. So just stick with orange, don't overthink it, and get straight to work. And I'm going to trim down that orange to a size that will allow me to see a nice frame of the background paper all the way around. It's not quite big enough, so I will go ahead and trim it some more. And that frame will determine how I need to trim my main focal pattern paper there, and I will just trim that down 1/8 of an inch shorter. But I'm not really going to measure, so I put my orange on the ruler of my trimmer, and then the new paper that I'm going to cut, I just slide over 2 tick marks on my trimmer, and that gives me that narrow border that I like. I am going to layer up my title card and my journaling card, and using this tried and true diagonal design is definitely for me a quick go-to. I will decide on a little bit more matting of my title and journaling elements and see what I want to do. I decide to go ahead and go with the blue. Since I went with the orange in the background, I am going to pop up my title on foam tape, and then I'm going to angle the corner of my title so that it points into my photo. So little details like that are things I use all the time, and they make a big difference on these quick and easy layouts when you have some of those elements really leading the eye. All right, I didn't have enough of the blue pattern paper left to fully mat my journaling block, so I'm just going to use it as a corner to my journaling block. And now I'm ready to start bringing in some embellishments and seeing if they could work. I thought this one would be way too big, but it tucks very nicely around the little word phrase there on the top of my journaling block, so I'm going to go with it. Those stars also help point the way to some of the elements in the photo, so I think that is a good use. And I'm just gonna put out some of these embellishments in places that could use a little something. And even though they don't all have the same style to them, the fact that they're all in the same theme helps them fit together. So I'm gonna put this little bird up here, like the bird is announcing the title. And then I will tuck in one more element there, which turns out to be a very, very old rub-on that isn't working at all. I do set it aside in the meantime, and I will come back to fix that up later. Now that I've used just all the quick elements from a collection, I can think about specifics that I want. And because that little cat is hiding in the background, I want some arrows. So I also want a tag that will have the cat's name that looks kind of like a collar tag. And then I thought, while I was looking for those pieces, some cameras would be good extra embellishments to go on here. So this isn't me overthinking things. This was just me looking at my stash and going, oh, that could work. And I grab the box and I come over here and I will just choose a couple of pieces. I also chose that circular photo reel because I can cut it in half and draw it across the diagonal, and that creates a little bit more cohesiveness. When I have all of these elements that are very different from each other, adding some elements that are similar to each other helps everything pull together. So I'm adding some arrows to point to the cats in a couple of different places so that that pulls together. I'm adding a couple more arrows straight on the photo because that cat is definitely small in that one picture. If I add it there, I add it somewhere else. And then instead of writing my journaling, I took a screenshot of a text message between me and my kid, and I'm just going to print out that journaling from their point of view. At first I thought that I would do this journaling from my point of view, but it's kind of fun to grab other people's words when you're telling stories and let their words sit on the page. Now, my kid is an adult and I don't scrapbook about them like I used to, so this one will likely go in just a family album, and later at some point, if they're ever looking through family albums, they might find this little story about themselves and be amused by my storytelling. So that finishes up this layout, and I will show you a close-up look here of some of those elements and how they came together. And then here's a little bit of a surprise element where I did leave a pocket in case I do want to add my own words to this story. So that's it. That's how I go from photos to layouts in about half an hour. I have got a list of 5 other layouts that I'm trying to get through in the next couple of days. So wish me luck and come back on Friday and I will be able to share all those layouts with you and show you how I did. So thanks for watching, and until then, I hope you have an artful day.